Hello and welcome back. I don't know, is this episode maybe, I don't know if this is two or three, and three of, what are we calling this? We are calling this Expat Profiles. Obviously, I was not prepared for that intro. Thanks for being with us. I'm joined today by Kathy and Edward. We're here in Vilcabamba at their home. If I get a chance, I may take a little footage and mix it into the video a bit, but it's really a stunning property and home. We're up here in the hills above Vilcabamba, so about 10 minutes from town.
Well, closer to 20.
15
Closer
or 20.
to 15 to 20?
Mhm.
Okay, I drive a little quick, but so we're up here about 15 or 20 minutes above Vilcabamba, slightly cooler temperatures up here where we are. And these folks have been here for quite a while in Ecuador. They've lived in Cuenca. Obviously, they live now in Vilcabamba. And we're just going to have a chat today about their experiences and talk a little bit about life here and what they've experienced here in Ecuador. So thank you guys for taking the time.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. So let's start a little bit just with your backgrounds, if you don't mind, where you're from, sort of your professional life, briefly, and then we'll get into what led you to, make a move like moving to Ecuador.
Okay.
Well, I'm a writer, and I'm from Mississippi originally. Kathy's from Alabama. And I used to work for the PBS affiliate in Mississippi, and I wrote documentaries and children's programs for them. And we moved to LA for screenwriting. We wrote screenplays for quite a while out there. We were writing partners and wrote together. And that's my professional background.
Sure.
Well, he left out lawyer. He was a lawyer too.
I was a lawyer for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in Mobile,
Yep.
and my family moved to Mississippi when I was a teenager, and I went to college in Edward's hometown. And we didn't meet until quite a while later. But
Oh, really?
sometime after we married, we moved to Los Angeles, and we moved. Whereupon I lost half of my Southern accent, because I wanted to be understood. But then when we moved here, it all came flooding back because this is a melting pot, sort of like LA. There are people from Russia, Kazakhstan, France, Italy, US, Canada, Mexico. And so there's every accent you could ever want to hear. So mine came back.
And you guys decided to move to Ecuador when?
Well, we came in 2009.
Oh, no. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had a beloved dog who I had congestive heart failure, and I spent 24 hours a day with him for 2 years, nursing him and making him happy. And when he finally went, we hadn't been on vacation in years. And
Except without him.
Without him.
We went only to California cities.
And so we happened on Ecuador as a vacation spot,
Okay.
and went to all the places in Ecuador that you usually go, Quito, and around there. We came to Cuenca, and we interviewed. Our jobs, we taught English as a second language in LA. Screenwriting was difficult to make a living with. And we found that job was getting ready to die. The funding was shriveling up.
Okay.
And so we interviewed down here in Cuenca at an English school, and to our surprise and even
And horror.
we got the job. So now we had to face
the next 6 months. Are we going to move or not? Shall we move or not? And
Oh, it was terrifying, and we just didn't know. And we finally had a deadline to say yes or no, and we finally decided just to jump off the cliff. So we moved to Cuenca and taught English there for a couple of years, and then what happened?
then our good friends who lived in Cuenca decided they would move to Vilcabamba. And we thought we were in LA. We were selling our house. We had been back after 2 years. We went back after 2 years to sell our house. And our friends wrote and they said, "We're going to move to Vilcabamba. Sorry to let you know by email." And we said, "That sounds like a great idea. You know, Cuenca is
This
cold
is
at night."
2011 thereabouts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea to me. So right in the middle of packing up our house, we decided, no, we're going to move to Vilcabamba. We'd been here once.
Yeah.
And so we came here shortly after we got our container loaded.
So we lived in Cuenca from '09 through 11, and then we've been here since 2011.
Let's talk about Cuenca for a minute. Obviously, this, our channel and this show is more focused on the Loja region and things like that. There's lots of places people can get info on Cuenca, but you guys have lived in both places, and we'll talk more extensively about Vilcabamba today. But what were your experiences in Cuenca? Did you enjoy it? What did you think?
I liked it a lot. I'm sort of a city person, and so I enjoyed the city aspect of it. I enjoyed the seeing people.
It's a walking city.
It's a great
Centro
walking city.
is.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
I like the museums. I especially like the restaurants.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed my time in Cuenca. I think it's a great city.
I froze to death.
It's cold. Yeah.
At night.
Yeah.
We had a great little apartment, which is not easy to come by, but we had a great little apartment in the Centro overlooking a river. And it was freezing at night. I would wear a heavy coat every night inside. And I can't remember what. I think all our friendships everybody was moving to a different place. And so we decided we would come down here. We had never found a house we wanted to live in there. And so it was easy to find property here.
Yeah.
So it's really two different worlds, Cuenca and Vilcabamba.
Totally.
That's an urban experience. This is more of a rural experience.
Sure.
That's totally.
Yeah.
A couple of things that are great about Vilcabamba as compared with Cuenca. The air here is fantastic. And the water is fantastic. And the views are fantastic. Vilcabamba is much easier. Life is easier here. This is a very small town. Maybe 5,000 people, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it's a different world, but it's very relaxing.
Yeah, it seems to be, a common sort of theme for Cuenca is that if you want to live in a city, it's a great city to live in. It's a bit cold. It can rain a good amount as well. But and I agree. I think, if you're looking for like nightlife and culture and restaurants, it's really pretty good for that. And as you mentioned, architecture is really beautiful. For me, even this is too cold. I like heat, so I couldn't live there for that reason. But not everyone is like that, of course. Okay, so 2011, kind of spur of the moment, you pack up from Cuenca, come to Vilcabamba. So let's go back to that time for a minute. So 2011 in Vilcabamba, we're in the middle of a massive boom here. People are coming in large numbers. There's a lot of money here at that time.
Construction everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, people are building. I didn't get here to 2013, but I understood from, just talking to people that at that time, stuff that's worth, maybe $10,000, foreigners were coming in and buying up for, $200,000 or $80,000 or, silly kind of stuff. Partly, and I don't want to, it's kind of funny, it should be mentioned, partly it was the Mayan calendar, and people worried about the end of the world, and somehow it was you'd be okay in Vilcabamba, Ecuador.
For some reason.
Because nothing could possibly ever happen here, period, I guess.
Right. So you guys get here then. I assume you rented at first, or what was?
Yeah,
how did
we
you
rented.
set yourselves up?
We went to a realtor at the time, became a very good friend, and but we rented, and we came down here regularly and stayed at hotels or hostels, and he would take us to various properties, and we finally decided on this one. And after that, we moved down and rented. And
While you built.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you purchased the land pretty quickly, then you came down, took a rental to oversee the construction.
Well, we did it. There was an intermediate process. We came down several times to see how we liked it.
Sure.
So we stayed at hostels in town and just hung out to see how we liked it. Decided we liked it, and so made all the preparations to move, and got a truck and loaded up all our stuff and moved down.
And now, had you, because this house is, I don't know if maybe you don't want me talking about it too much, but the house, it's okay, yeah. So the house is filled with just beautiful antique furniture and stuff that you imported. Had you done that already to Cuenca, or did you do that after you built?
No,
We brought it here.
we decided to come to Vilcabamba and went back, sold our house, got a container, and loaded everything up.
Okay.
And we rented a storage facility here for maybe 2 years.
Sure.
And
So
While
we
you
had
built.
a lifetime worth of antiques and stuff in a storage unit in town, and that's where it stayed for a couple of years while we rented and bought this property. And slowly, first we built the guest house, which is down the mountain a little ways, and then
we
we
lived
moved,
there.
and then
Right.
we moved from the
years.
apartment to the guest house while the main house was being built.
Yeah.
Since you're from Vermont, you may not know this, but Southerners do not throw anything away, ever,
Okay.
ever. Like, I've got papers from my great grandfather
Oh, wow.
in Alabama,
That's
like
cool.
his diary thing. So does every descendant. We never throw anything away. And when we moved to Los Angeles, we would see these strange things. People were having yard sales and selling their ancient things, and how can they do that? You never throw anything away. So we had everything we'd ever owned practically,
So you probably did the 40-foot.
We did the 40-foot with the extra,
with an extra foot at the top.
and
Okay.
it was stuffed to the gills.
Okay. And you brought that down also in 2011, the
That
container?
was 2011.
Yeah, what was that experience like? It's a while ago, but
Well, here's an introduction to Ecuador. Our container arrived in Guayaquil, the port city, just before Christmas. I would say never have that happen, because that's when the customs officials can line their pockets with bribe money. And that is exactly what happened to us. Our container got stuck there, and they'd say, no, it was just a random drug check. And day after day after day, we were paying rent. And our shipper called, and he said, what can we do? And the guy said, put $300 in my account at Banco Pacifico. Call me when it's there.
yeah.
It was
It was
released.
gone the next day.
It was
Yeah.
released the next day.
Yeah, I mean, this is not an uncommon story. To get out
No.
for $300 is pretty good. And I would say, I mean, overall, there is more visible corruption in Ecuador than where we're from. Not necessarily more corruption, but it's more visible. And I would argue that aduana, customs, is the worst. I mean, I don't think there's a worse. Clients always ask me, about the shipping container. I say, look, if you're bringing a lot of high value stuff, it makes sense financially. Chances are you're going to have an issue or two in customs. Yeah.
But as far as other than that, we had a good shipper operating out of Cuenca. He made it happen and got it down. Nothing was damaged.
Most things arrived.
Most things.
Did something stuff
Most-
not
There
arrive?
were a few,
Yes.
there were a
Oh,
few
really?
things that
Oh, wow.
disappeared.
That
but-
you usually don't hear about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we still think it's still happening. We think, where are those flower pots? Like we realized they never made it.
I mean, that happened to me in Loja, just moving from one apartment to another. I just can't figure it out. But yeah, okay. So you did the shipping container. Obviously, you did your visas, of course. I'm sure you did that in Cuenca. No,
Right.
not really any reason to talk about that. That was a totally different system at that time than it is now. Okay, so you get to Vilcabamba. You sort of arrive at the end of that boom we talked about. From my experience, I got here in 2013. I thought Vilcabamba, and you may have a totally different take, I want to get yours, but for me it was like, I thought Vilcabamba was so cool at that time. And then about halfway through 2014, it was like, all my friends and like started to leave, and it just like wasn't as, I didn't like it as much anymore. And then there was kind of a few years like that, and then more recently I've started to love it again. I feel like it's sort of coming back in a certain way. What's been your guys' experience, whether it's social life or just overall vibe in the town, or do you enjoy living here? Like,
Well,
All our friends have left
oh
as
really?
the years have passed. Virtually everyone.
but at that time, we had a couple we were very good friends with, and they were here, and it was hopping in town.
Yeah.
In front of the juice factory, it was just a crowd of expats, kids running up and down the sidewalk. So it was very vibrant. And then after the Mayan calendar,
After the world didn't end.
the world didn't end, and
That's not why we came, by the way.
people.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I don't think anyone who's still here came for that reason.
That's
It's like
true.
they all
I don't
left.
think
That's
Like,
so.
true. That's true. I mean,
think so.
Moving to another country is not the easiest thing in the world to do, and it weeds them. Life will weed them out, and if it's too rough, they go back. And
Or if if they have grandkids born or something,
Sure.
they go back. And
or if they have little kids and they've got their in-laws to take care of the kids, or if they're starting school, they want to have to start school. So a lot of reasons why people went back.
Yeah.
So it did sort of calm down, but for us, things didn't change that much. We were very absorbed in building the two houses here, and we had our friends, and so we were pretty occupied.
yeah, we taught. There used to be a free. A couple here offered free ESL classes or English
remember that,
classes, and Edward and I wanted to do that, and we drove down every night, or 4 nights a week, and taught ESL, or English, I should say, and that was the way I got to know so many locals, and still know them, and
We go to town, Kathy. Kathy, it seems like she knows everybody.
I don't know as many gringos. I don't know as many
Yeah.
expats
Like kids
anymore.
that you taught and people you
Well,
taught.
these
Yeah.
are adults.
They were
Yeah.
adults.
They were
yeah.
adults. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, Jorge, are you still a carpenter? Where are you working? Da, da, da. Spanish has made all the difference for me. If not for having Spanish, we would not know the locals.
Yeah.
Like just for example, today we have to take our trash in. No, there's no pickup up here.
Well, it's hard to get up here, much less
Yeah.
trash pickup.
So we're at the trash dump, and there are always people there who recycle things. And there
Yeah.
was a couple there doing recycling, and I said, "Well, some has to be Spanish. Summer's come finally, yes, and the wind too." And so we had a long conversation. That would have never been possible,
Did you guys speak Spanish when you arrived, or did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
but not this well.
Yeah. Well,
No.
I mean, we both have a similar history in terms of Spanish. We both took it in high school and college. When we were in LA, we lived in a Latino neighborhood.
Mixed neighborhood.
And we taught English as a second language, so we
Almost
were
all
exposed
Latinos.
like
Right.
24 hours a day to a Latino culture. When we did vacations, they would be to Mexico or Guatemala. We invariably mixed in Spanish classes as part of the vacation. So when we arrived, we had a pretty good grounding.
Yeah.
We knew enough to travel and not be scared.
Right. Have an idea what's going on around you
Yeah.
and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I remember going to Venezuela of all places, but way back in 2006 or 8 or 4 or somewhere in there, and not speaking a word of Spanish. I was nervous the whole time because you just have no idea what's going on around you. But it really is nice once you have some mastery
Well,
of
yours
the
is
language.
beautiful. I'm an admirer.
But I will say that there are a number of expats here who speak very, very little, if any, Spanish.
Yeah.
and they survive fine.
Yeah, I mean, Vilcabamba, Cuenca, maybe Montanita, there's a few places where you can not speak Spanish, and because so many people speak English, it works. Of course, it limits a little bit, what you can and can't do, but...
And where you live, you don't want to live in the middle of Ecuadorians if you don't know their language at all.
Right.
But we specifically wanted to live with Ecuadorians around us.
Sure.
We knew we liked Latinos.
Yeah, you had some background with
Yeah.
the culture and
Oh.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it is a very different culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it is, you were mentioning a few minutes ago sort of some of the reasons people leave, and you said something which I don't recall exactly, but which made me think of something I've noticed. It's sort of like, whether it's a year in or 2 years in or 3 years in, it's like there comes a point where I think most people kind of hit a wall to some degree. It's like things maybe aren't making sense. There's all those cultural differences, and it's like, I think a lot of people go home then. If you get past that, I feel like it becomes great.
Yeah.
But there is that, there are those differences that you have to bridge. You guys obviously have done that successfully, but I've noticed people who are not so as successful at it get frustrated, get upset, with that kind of stuff. But anyways, let's talk for a second about some of that cultural stuff. Is there anything, that you would have told yourself in 2009 that you would say that's so different, or something to be on the lookout for, or something to be proactive about that comes to mind?
Well, just what the Spanish word is trámite, which is the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Dealing with the bureaucracy, permits, setting up your internet, getting a driver's license, having employees, dealing with the social security system here. All those things are much different from the States.
I'll say they're different, but every time I think, oh, this is so horrible, I remember income tax. We don't have to do that here. We still have to do U.S. income tax. I remember driver's licenses there were no fun. Property taxes, etc., etc. Our property taxes in Los Angeles were $7,000 a year. I'm sure they're more now.
For sure.
Here they're $100.
Right.
So the bureaucracy is horrible in the U.S. equally.
So
yeah.
it's equally horrible.
It's just we don't know what to expect here.
Right.
One thing that was and continues to be very pleasant, it's very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Everything from taxes to food to restaurants.
Labor-intensive
Labor.
things. Labor is very inexpensive.
Very, very inexpensive. We've done a good bit of traveling in South America. This is one of the less expensive places to live, and
Yeah.
Do you, we get a lot of questions about safety. I think there was a time where a few things happened some years back, but personally, I mean, I moved here from New York City, which actually statistically is also very safe, like a very safe city in the U.S., even though it has a reputation. But I mean, I watched myself, there. I personally don't watch myself here at all. I feel extremely safe, but not everyone has that perception. How do you guys feel about safety?
well,
Safe.
safe. Nothing has ever happened to us.
Cuenca, one thing.
Oh, one thing in Cuenca, that's true.
Yeah, one thing.
But in Vilcabamba, nothing has ever happened. There's been things that we've heard about,
Sure.
but as far as personally experienced, nothing. So we feel totally safe in our house. We feel totally safe going to town and in town.
And did you guys leave family back home? Obviously, of course, everyone has family, but kids or
No.
anything like? Okay.
No.
So there
I have
wasn't.
siblings and their kids. They're in Alabama. And so that's who I left. And we haven't been able to travel for over a year now. So I'm watching my great nephew graduate from high school sign with the college in baseball and on and on and
cool.
on. And I'm going, I have to watch this online. It's making me crazy.
Well, it's easier for me. I'm an only child,
Yeah.
and so I don't really have close relatives. So
He has lots of
I have
cousins.
lots of cousins that I'm close with, but that's not a factor for me.
Yeah. So it wasn't a major tearing away and
No,
people
no.
being like, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" You
Oh,
guys
yeah,
are-
well, they all said you're crazy.
They
They
all
all
say-
said we're crazy, and they still do. They still do.
Yeah.
Like we built the guest house thinking, well, we're building this guest house for all these people to come down and visit. Well, with,
Ha, ha, ha.
with the exception of one friend, adventurous friend of Kathy's from LA, no one has come down. Well,
Wait, now my college friends made a 10-day trip a few years ago, but
but basically people
no
don't come
lengthy
down.
stays.
Yeah. I think everybody discovers that
They don't come down.
they don't really come. No, I mean,
No.
like my mother and father have come. That's it.
Yeah.
Not one friend, not one other family member.
No. No.
Yeah, it's people have this perception. Like when I tell people back home, Ecuador is starting to get a little more publicity now. But when I tell people back home, I live in Ecuador, I either get a blank stare, or I get oh cool, or I get a oh Central America great. Like people like, have no idea where it is or anything about it. I mean, I didn't either. Of course, you guys had done some traveling. I had done almost none. I had like movie images in my head when
I assumed that it was directly south of Los Angeles,
Oh,
but it's directly south of Miami.
Oh, right, as far as
You
the
know?
time zone and yeah.
So,
All right, so you bought land. Obviously, you've built just these guys have built a place here that's really out of a magazine. It's not something you see commonly in Ecuador. They modeled it after a home that they had found in a magazine, maybe or online.
well, we used, the dog that Edward mentioned. We could take him when he had the heart problem. We could take him to coastal cities in
'Cause
California
it was
that were cool.
Okay.
And Carmel
You
was
couldn't
one.
overheat, yeah.
And there was a Doris Day dog hotel there. And so we went to Carmel.
These guys are dogs, people. In case you haven't
we went to
figured
Carmel
that.
We went to
several
Carmel
times.
3 times, and Carmel has unique architecture because of one builder, I think back in the 20s, Hugh
Okay.
Comstock.
Okay.
And this house, we copied one of his. We never seen it to this day, but it's on. There are pictures online, inside and outside, and
Yeah.
So the guest house below, is a combination of 2 of his houses that I put together, and this house is a copy of another of his houses. And we didn't have an architect. We just printed off pictures off the internet of the various rooms, and our contractor, who is American, and our maestro, who is Ecuadorian, basically built it from the pictures.
Maestro is like the builder, the guy.
he's the on-site foreman, I guess,
sure,
is what you
foreman
call
would be
it.
the right. That would be the right word. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But some of the roof line was not in the pictures.
So we just had
And
to make
it's-
that up.
right.
Well, we didn't.
They
But
did.
Yeah.
They did.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it came out just spectacularly. I mean, we're surrounded here by avocado trees and roses and just beautiful antique, art-looking furniture, and you've got a stone. I don't know. Is that I'm not even sure what
That's
that is.
the bodega,
there. That's the
storage area.
unit and garage and the views, which we aren't showing here. I mean, you can see some of these, but on this side, it looks out over the whole valley of Vilcabamba. I mean, it's absolutely spectacular and quite an accomplishment, really, because getting these things accomplished here in Ecuador it takes more. Some of it's easier in the sense that, at least at that time, for you guys especially, at that time you didn't have to get construction permits or submit plans or do any of that.
We didn't have to have an architect.
Now you do, not everywhere, but here you do now. It's much easier a process than the States. I mean, much easier. But you do need to do that. But, getting that, labor here is, you have the cultural barriers. Sometimes you have the language barriers. You got to find the right guy. It's a different culture. people have a different attitude about precision, about time, things like that. So it's really an accomplishment to have created such a masterpiece here. What were your experiences like building the house?
First of all, we had never built a house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This was your first. Wow.
We love old houses.
Yeah.
And we'd always bought old houses and redone them.
Okay, so
we
you had
never-
done some remodeling and
Right,
things like that.
but
yeah.
never
Minor.
from scratch. And there really aren't old houses here. But we built basically a 200-year-old house, a new 200-year-old house.
Yeah.
And so we hired a good contractor named Luke, and gave him our ideas, we gave him the pictures, we told him what we wanted, and we just did it step by step from there. They started with the guest house, they dug a deep, deep foundation.
You couldn't see the men. They were over their heads inside in the dirt.
This was for stability,
For stability.
earthquake
I guess so.
reasons,
And,
or,
well, just for general stability. It was a normal foundation, but some houses are built with
no foundation.
They just
Right, they
scrape
just-
up a little hole, they throw some rocks and twigs in there, and that's the foundation. But
twigs are very stable.
Yeah.
they are, and pebbles too. So he just went step by step, finished the guest house. Took about maybe
A year or so?
year. We moved into the guest house. All the workmen moved up here. At one point, we had maybe
12 or 14.
12 or 14 workers building. Some of them were building the retaining wall because we're on the side of a mountain, and this was the flattest land that we could find on the mountain, but it wasn't really flat. So they had to level it off, build a retaining wall. That retaining wall took quite a while.
Took 2 men 4 months, I think, or maybe more than that.
And this is that we're looking at here.
Right. We
Yes.
call it
Machu
Machu
Picchu.
Picchu because it's like three or
It's
four
3 retaining walls.
3 retaining walls.
Right, but it's it's so tastefully done. Normally, you see retaining walls; they're either all concrete with steel sometimes inside, or they're stone but with concrete that holds it together. This is just a beautiful stone sort of terraced look.
Edward has an artist's eye, and I
Yeah,
do
clearly.
somewhat, and so does our maestro. And we saw the retaining walls that have river rock. River rock is the round rock.
Right.
And we preferred mountain rock, which has jagged edges. And we have loads of it up here, but it's worthless for construction because it breaks.
It's brittle.
Okay.
So, this is a facade that you're looking at.
Sure.
It's
Concrete
stuck
underneath.
on. With,
Concrete
it's
is
stuck
un-
onto the
concrete is
concrete.
underneath.
Yeah.
It's a standard retaining wall with concrete and rebar and a lot
Yeah, I
of
mean you need that for the
a
integrity.
lot
A
of-
lot of big rocks.
and a lot of big rocks that filled it in. And at the end, they did the
facade.
facade.
Yeah, and obviously it's held up very perfectly.
Mhm.
Well, every
Yeah.
once in a while we'll find a rock that
It
falls
falls
off.
off. But,
Right, but the mountain's still where it's supposed to be.
Yes.
uh,
I'll give that to Luke and his father.
Yeah.
Luke's father is an engineer,
Right.
and Luke would call home sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Dad, am I doing this right? And so we felt like we got some good advice.
no, but I'd seen on the internet what they call dry stack, which is rocks that are not
Visibly connected to
They
each
have
other.
no concrete. They're just on themselves. And you being from New England, you've probably seen a lot of fences.
Oh
built,
yeah, stone walls. and-
stone walls
Yeah.
with nothing to keep it together.
That's
So
right.
that's the look.
That's right. It's a beautiful look, and that's very common in New England. And you have I guess they're probably called masons, stone masons, I would imagine, who are just artists with that. I mean, they can just create
Right.
stone walls that last forever with no
Right.
no glue, no. you
They
know.
just sit on each other.
Yeah, they just find like the right angle and
Yeah.
build them that way. They're very labor intensive and therefore expensive, but yeah. Okay.
So we had some of our workers were very good masons, and so they're the ones that worked on the walls, and then some of them were very good at other things and other things and other things. And basically, our contractor and our maestro supervised this day to day. our maestro was up here every day. Luke, the contractor, would come every 3 days or so.
But one little difficulty when we built, the supplies are not always local. You have to go to the city to get things like paint, unless you want just plain white. And so, and they don't have a Sherwin-Williams that lets you match the color you want. And so the painter would put maybe 5 different colors on the wall, and Luke would go to the city, Loja, and come back with 2 or 3 cans of paint. We would try those out. Nope. So he'd have to go back to Loja. It was, yeah.
So that's the difference between Ecuador and the U.S.
They do have Sherwin-Williams now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's part of sort of those changes, right? You guys have probably seen a lot of
Yes.
sort of modernization, for lack of a
Yes.
better word, in the
Yeah.
time that you've been
There
here.
was nothing, there was not one piece of comfortable furniture in Ecuador,
Right.
in Cuenca. In fact, we looked for just a little love seats because our apartment had all wooden chairs and sofa, solid wood. So we looked for a love seat in Cuenca. It took us weeks and weeks and weeks to find one thing we liked. And then we chose the textile to cover it, and we took it to the furniture store, and they said, "We're out. We don't have, pick something else." And anyway, now I understand there are a few places that sell comfortable furniture.
Yeah, there's also there's
not
a whole there's a pretty large industry too of where you can just have stuff custom made.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done that a lot. Like I think almost all the furniture I've bought, I've just had custom made because you get much higher quality,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still really inexpensive compared to what you would pay back home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically, this house was hand built. Everything was hand built. There's a guy in town who's great with carpentry. He built all the cabinets, the windows, the doors,
The closets.
the closets. So we hired him, and he built it in his workshop in town and brought it up here and installed it. So everything's handmade.
One thing that construction requires here, of some more than a few workers, is physical strength.
Right.
Because there's no concrete truck that comes up and pours your concrete and lays your
Foundation.
your driveway and foundation. They have to mix it in a little bitty concrete mixer. Then they have something they call pariwal. Okay, well, there are 2 men holding bars here. There's concrete. There's a basket for concrete in the middle, and there's another man holding on the other end. And they rush it onto the foundation, tip it over, rush back for more. And they have to carry wheelbarrows full of heavy rocks, maybe 150 pounds of rocks, uphill. We had one worker that we called him Rambo because he had such muscles, and I taught him what it meant to be cut.
Yeah, no, it's true. Almost all Ecuadorians are strong, even if
Yes.
they don't work construction.
Right.
I've noticed that playing basketball.
Yeah.
You bump up against an Ecuadorian, it's
It's a
solid.
It's a wall.
Yeah.
One other thing about building a house is the materials. Very little wood. Wood is at a premium in Ecuador, and it's not cheap.
Yeah.
We did ours with Adobe. And the great thing about Adobe is it holds the temperature. So if it holds the heat, it holds the cool. We have never encountered a house that either had or needed central heat or air.
Right.
We have no heat, we have no air conditioning, and it's comfortable.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in this town, I've only encountered an air conditioner, and I see, hundreds of houses. I've only encountered an air conditioner once.
Yeah.
It was in one bedroom of one house, a very, very high end, home. It's the only time I've ever experienced it. And yeah, Adobe's great because of what you mentioned. It breathes, it regulates temperature. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the differences as far as inconveniences. Is there stuff here that comes to mind that you just really wish you had, or
Yes.
it's really a big pain? Or
I can tell you one thing. Shopping is dead as an activity. I occasionally like to go to a store like, what's this? I can't remember the name of the store anymore. Sur La Table or
Yeah.
a
like
kitchen
a Williams
store.
Sonoma.
Williams Sonoma,
oh,
there you
right,
go.
yeah, a nice
Well,
home goods type. Yeah,
Mhm.
Or buy a pair of jeans or a shirt. I have never bought a piece of clothing in Ecuador in our almost 12 years here. If I want something, I write my sister and say, can you buy me some shirts? And she'll send me pictures, and I'll say, that's okay. And then we ship them here for $12 a pound. So, yeah,
So
it would be nice to have an array of products.
products is the thing I would miss.
Mhm.
Like for instance, it's impossible to really bring stuff in. Like, well, they abolished the postal system here a
Yes.
couple of years ago, so there's no mail, and even when there was mail, you couldn't depend on it.
no, you'd much better off using DHL or something,
Right.
or a mule type
Yeah,
service.
and what we do and what we've done for years is use a mule, and you pay. You have your items shipped to the mule's address in the U.S. via Amazon or whatever, and then they, by whatever surreptitious means they have, they bring it down and you pick it up and you pay the premium. The thing I miss the most is books. I'm a big reader, and I can't. I'm not going to pay $12 a pound to bring books down. It's just too much. So I've got a big library. I do a lot of rereading.
Right.
You can't buy books in English here.
No,
It's
not
virtually impossible.
Not much. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, for me, that's probably the biggest inconvenience also. My wife, who's Ecuadorian, has ways of getting things that are amazing, that I'm always
Oh.
impressed with
uh-huh.
her ability to find stuff that I wouldn't be able to find. But it's possible that stuff is getting a lot easier now. We'll see. But the new president has announced, he'd like to do trade deals with all these countries, and he'd like to lower the import taxes, which have already been lowered a substantial amount since I got here. So perhaps it'll get easier. In the larger cities, you do have if you go to Guayaquil or some of these places, you do have a pretty good variety of clothing available to you. Most of the stuff you'd find back home. The problem is it's twice or three times as
much.
expensive with all of the import taxes, and so it's just on principle. It's hard to spend $150 for a pair of Levi's or something.
And
As if there were anywhere to go that you wanted to dress up for.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with electronics,
Yeah.
like computers
And cars.
and cars.
The cars, very expensive. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a seamstress that's really nice in town. Before we had a house and had our washer and dryer, she would do all our laundry, and now she does all our mending. I take things down to be mended every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Well, all my entire wardrobe is from 15 to 20 years old.
Right. See, I'm in the same. I used to travel back to the States like 2 to 3 times a year.
yeah, we did too.
A lot of people, and I do all my shopping, and I just bring it back in suitcases, and that worked fine. But since this whole situation now, I'm out of clothes. Like this is like one of like 2 T-shirts I have left that don't have holes in it.
This is one my sister sent me, the blue.
These are my dress jeans because they don't have mending, but my regular day-to-day jeans are just patches.
This is the Sunday best.
This for the interview, I did my Sunday best. It doesn't have any patches, doesn't have any stitches, but my regular jeans, my mother would just shake her head.
Right. Now, I will say something I've discovered since being out of things is that not only can you have furniture and all that stuff custom made, you can actually have clothes custom made.
We heard that for the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it works. I mean, I had a number of suits made that were, I mean, you'd spend $2-3 on that quality of suit in New York, and these are like $200 to $400 type deal. And but you can even have shirts and jeans and for very inexpensive compared to the States. Maybe more expensive than like a cheap pair here, but still pretty reasonable. And you give them your specifications and do it that way. I haven't done that too much yet, but I've started to. It works pretty well.
Well, I'm looking to get another 20 years out of my wardrobe.
Right.
Then I'll look into that.
I can tell you one inconvenience this past year.
Yeah.
The first stimulus check.
Right.
Okay. For some reason, the IRS decided to mail it to us here.
Ooh.
And they did that the same week that the president abolished the postal service. And after a while, I got a letter from the embassy or the consulate, and this was when all traffic, you couldn't travel between provinces. We have your stimulus checks. We are closed. You'll have to make an appointment and come pick them up. And I said, we can't travel, just like you can't travel. Anyway, our stimulus checks came 5 months late. We had to go to DHL in Loja and pay in advance to have them ship it. And so there you go.
Just to touch on the postal service thing for a second, because they did have postal service, but it's not like they delivered anyone's house or anything. It's like a post office where you can send stuff. And you don't get things in the mail here. Like they don't, companies don't send you
bills,
junk or bills or any of that. When you want to pay a bill, you just go into, a tienda store or wherever they take payments and you pay. Of course, now you can do most of it online.
It's like 60 years ago.
Is it? See, I know.
I mean, well, it used to be in the States, if you paid your electric bill, you went to the electric company.
Okay.
That's what we do here.
Right.
You have to remember the day your bill is due. So for our internet, we have to appear at the little place in town before the 6th and pay.
Right. Luckily, Ecuador has not really they don't really do late fees. So it's like, maybe there's a company or something I don't know about, but in general, they don't do late fees. And even if your service gets cut off, which is a strategy a lot of Ecuadorians use. It's like they pay when their service gets cut off. Oh, we got to go pay. And you just pay up till date. They turn it back on. Maybe I think the electric company actually has a fee for that, but most of the companies do not. And so really it's like if you're sending documents or you're sending things, it's really DHL or FedEx or these.
It has to be DHL.
Yeah.
For here, it has to be DHL.
For this area, it's the best. Yeah. All right. What do you have any sort of overall stuff that you would say makes people successful or unsuccessful in moving to and living here?
Patience and adaptability.
Yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Unless you want to live your life wholly with Americans or people from your country. If you want a little adventure, if you want to be able to travel comfortably, if you want to be able to handle trips to the doctor without a translator, if you want Spanish to me. Although some people do fine without it, but
that I mean, both of those, of course, ring true to me. But I usually, when people ask me that question, I very often say more along the lines of like, patience and adaptability. That's well put, because I find like people who are unsuccessful often get frustrated and angry because they're not understanding something, or they think somebody's trying to rip them off when it's really just a communication or a cultural issue.
Things go more slowly here.
Right.
It doesn't go at the pace that it goes in the States, and you just have to kind of relax into that and realize this is not the States, and some people are what they call the ugly American.
Sure.
And they expect things to be like the States, and they're not going to be like the States. And if you expect that, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this area. Like, if you're someone who really strongly wants something closer to the conveniences of back home, you really have to go to Guayaquil or Quito or maybe Cuenca, and that's about it. Maybe a little bit Manta, but probably not even. But in this area, for sure, it's old school.
It's old school.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the doctor that we go to,
The local doctor.
the local
here.
doctor that we go to. Well, in the States, doctors have nice waiting rooms and nice examining rooms. And
You make an appointment.
And you make an appointment. Of course, but you do have to wait. Well, here, our doctor is upstairs behind the pharmacy, across
And
from the hospital.
The waiting room is a little porch area. It's covered, but you can see chickens walking below you. You can see chickens everywhere you go here.
Just out of curiosity, this is in Loja you're talking
No,
about?
it's here.
Okay, that makes more
It's here.
sense. Yeah,
But
yeah.
she's a great doctor.
So, in
Dr.
his first,
Sonia we're talking about.
No, Koyawasa.
Dr. Koyawasa.
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
think I know.
And she speaks no English, and but
She's hilarious.
it's first
She laughs.
it's first come first serve,
Yeah.
and you go out there and you wait, not very long usually. She's a great diagnostician, and
I'm gonna sneeze.
I mean, she does. I mean, she's a mainstream doctor.
Sure.
Oh, she does homeopathic.
But she does homeopathic and alternative stuff also. And I think that is fairly standard for Ecuador for mainstream doctors to have more of a grounding also
Alternative.
in alternative
Yeah.
medicine as opposed to the States where there's a utter divide between the two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's a great point.
We go there some days. She's here. She comes here every day from the city
from Loja.
and is here 6 days a week until noon or so. And so we go sit there, and there might be 15 people. And we think, oh my God, how long are we going to have to wait? Well, she calls the next person, and 6 people from the same family go in. Yay!
Things are done in groups here, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's family.
It's family.
Yeah.
It's
But we've gone to her several times for, fortunately, fairly minor things. But she knows what she's doing, and we're comfortable.
One time I went, I said, I'm not really sick, but I get bronchitis now and then. I don't want to get bronchitis. She took out her stethoscope. She listened to me. She said, you have pneumonia. She said, leve, which I assume is walking pneumonia. I didn't even really feel bad.
yeah.
Pneumonia leve. And so,
Okay. Yeah. Right.
yeah,
probably.
but, that was like, boom, 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I had an experience like that. Well, first of all, I just got to clarify for people. This is a tiny little town that they're having this experience in. In Loja, there's completely normal clinics and hospitals and doctors' offices that look very similar to back home. Although, yeah, in my experience as well with my very limited experience with doctors here, absolutely, they're much more, it's much more common for them to mix sort of Western and I don't know if we call it traditional or ancestral or whatever type medicine alternative. Here, I had a doctor once who was diagnosing a stomach issue that I had. He took the stethoscope and was listening to my stomach. I'm thinking, like, what is this guy doing? Like, and he diagnosed it, and like, he spent 5 or 10 minutes like moving it all around, listening. It was quite interesting. I mean, no doctor in the States at this point, I don't think, would do anything like that.
An interesting thing about Vilcabamba specifically is it's a center for alternative medicine.
Yeah.
So you will see a lot of different alternative type practitioners. This would be expatriates that have come here and taken up their practice here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the medical system, as far as we're concerned, is great. Of course, we lucked into finding a great doctor in Cuenca. And anytime anybody has anything a little out of the ordinary, we recommend that they go to him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got an emergency that needs care in the next 10 minutes, you're kind of out of luck.
Sure.
But if you've got time to drive 4 or 5 hours or have a taxi take you, then you'll get, shall I say, better care than in many places in the U.S.
I had 3 significant surgeries in Cuenca, and I was totally satisfied with the care I got, both from the doctors and the hospital staff. Better, I think, than I would have gotten in the States.
Yeah.
At 20% of the cost.
Or less, yeah. I mean, a typical doctor visit, in Loja is $30.
Right, same
yeah.
here.
And the follow-up is usually free. So you end up getting 2 visits for, for $30.
Again, it's like the 50s, where in the 50s, when I used to go to the doctor, take a lot of time. They take a lot of time with you. They talk with you. It's not rushing you in, rushing you out. It's not dictated by the insurance companies.
Right.
And they don't have, it's not like a production line like it has to be, like it is in the States because of economic pressures.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one oddity that was a real shock when Edward was in the hospital. He was given a medicine that caused his hemoglobin to stop or whatever. Anyway, he needed several blood transfusions, and it was a private hospital. And private hospitals don't keep blood.
Oh, really?
You have to take a sample, or you have to take a blood sample, and you have to take a little ice chest and get a taxi and go out to the Red Cross and pay for your blood in advance and wait for them to prepare it. And if you're going to have if you're going to have surgery, you can put blood on hold for a lesser cost, just in case, in case you need a transfusion. Then that was a bad experience.
So Kathy would go out at night in a taxi to get blood
with
for
my
me.
little ice chest.
And one time the blood place was closed. It was about 10 o'clock. Kathy had to go to the head of the blood place, knock on their door,
Get them out of bed.
roust them out of bed, get them to open up to get me blood. So being an expat is like they say about old age. It's not for sissies.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. No, it's let's see, you were talking about the medical and the doctors or something that occurred to me. It's escaping me now, but yeah, no, it is very different for sure. Oh, I remember. So yeah, you guys were mentioning earlier bureaucracy, and that for me, yeah, it's the 2 biggest drawbacks for me are the bureaucracy and the conveniences of stuff you just want to have readily available.
Well, you have a business.
Right, which is different, yeah.
And Ecuador is said to be one of the most difficult places to do business.
Yeah, getting
in
easier
the
and
world.
easier, but
That's good.
But yeah, but it's interesting in juxtaposition to the experience in the medical world here. That has much less red tape,
Right.
much less bureaucracy, much less sort of protocol and cost, obviously, and layers of regulation and
No
and things
AMA.
like that. Right. Right.
And we don't have to have a prescription for all our drugs. If we
Right.
need something, chances are we can go to the pharmacy and say, can you get us this? And they say, I have to order it. It'll be here Friday.
So
And no doctor's prescription.
you
is
don't have to
required.
go for many things like antibiotics. You don't need a prescription. You go, you talk to the pharmacist. You depend on the pharmacist much more than you would in the States.
Right.
And the pharmacists are very knowledgeable. The pharmacists get injections in the pharmacy.
Yeah.
So
I haven't gone there for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. Is there any last, either something I haven't covered that you want to say, or tips or advice that you just want to leave people with as we wrap up?
I have one tip. If you come down, bring sheets and towels.
Good ones.
Good quality.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Egyptian cotton high thread count.
Right. You're not going to find
You're not
it.
going to find that. I mean, again, the big cities you can, but very expensive. Yeah.
My tip is find a taxi driver who will always help you. Some of them speak English if your Spanish isn't good enough. Somebody who can counsel you. Somebody you can say, this person just did this. What is going on here? Like we have a counselor in town. Like one of our little dogs. The woman said his former owner said, I don't have any plato, no tengo plato. I don't have enough money to feed him. And so we asked our friend here, I said, I feel so bad taking him from her. And he said, she has money. Everybody can feed a dog.
Yeah.
She wants to get rid of him. That was a nice way of giving him to you.
Yeah.
And so, if it hadn't been for that, I would have never felt right about stealing her dog.
Right.
So, no tengo plato. Oh! But anyway, you need a local counselor who can explain the culture to you,
Yeah.
who can tell you, look, I have to do this. Oh, that's easy, and they'll tell you how to do things. So
Yeah, that's great advice. I would second that. Both of those for sure. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, give us a like, thumbs up, comment. If you got any questions for them, throw them in the comments. I'll pass them along.
Can I say one little plug?
Yeah,
Can I
please.
make one little plug? So I'm in the middle of rearranging all the posts I put on Facebook about life in Vilcabamba. And one day I hope that it will be a book called Living Large in Vilcabamba, which is an ironic title in a way. But
Right.
anyway, one day I hope to have that.
And can people find those posts now, or
Oh, if you go back on my Facebook page
On
from
your
years
personal,
ago.
okay, yeah.
But not really.
okay?
I still do them, but I find I have to be in the right mood. Like if I've just had a horrible experience with bureaucracy. Oh, here's one. The ATM machine ate my credit card 2 weeks ago. The bank had put in a new ATM machine, and it would not give it back. And the bank in Loja would not answer my call, would not return my call. And to get a credit card from the U.S. is a
It's a hassle.
massive experience. Okay, so we happened to be in Loja. I walked into the bank, and she said, "It's in the machine." How do you know? It's in the machine. If you go there or if you come back after the men fill it up on Friday, you can get your card here. And I said, I'm not going back to the city. Anyway, the bank guard at the corner is a friend of mine, and he said, Kati? Everybody,
Right.
I'm Kati
Kati.
because Spanish doesn't have a TH sound to speak of. Kati, give me your WhatsApp number, and if I see the men filling the machine, I'll call you. He called me. We flew down to town. They were filling the machine up. When they came out, they had this many cards. It had been eating everybody's credit card for a solid week because it was a new machine.
Yeah, it's
So
malfunction.
there you go. That's typical.
But that's kind of the way things can happen in Ecuador. Let me make one final plug.
Sure.
We wrote a novel together. The title is Blood Relations by Edward and Kathy Cohen, available on Amazon via Kindle. And it's a legal murder mystery, and we recommend it highly.
Yes,
Excellent.
we do.
Excellent.
And one more thing, there's a word in Spanish called palanca. The literal meaning is oar, but the way it's used here, it means influence. So if you want something, find somebody with palanca. For example, the guard at the little corner bank had palanca because he was placed in the right place. I had palanca. I had influence because I knew him and he could alert me to come to town. So palanca is the secret to life. You know
Completely.
that too.
Completely. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, and we've probably talked about this a good amount on the channel, but it's all relationships. Everything's done through relationships.
Mhm.
And so, you work the system through the people you know, and you get things accomplished that way, as opposed to just filling out the form and dropping it off. Thank you again, guys. I
Yeah,
really
thanks.
appreciate your time.
It was fun.